again, and welcome to Forum for a Better Understanding. When you're going to do a show that you've never done before after 367 other programs in a series, you really have to bring in some talent. And that's why we brought in two guests, one of them all the way from, you may have heard of this place, Sacramento. It's a city up in Northern California. And we were so blessed to have a locally grown person here and someone we imported to share about the church and social media. It's a thing that we're dealing with personally, professionally, and the station is definitely making an effort to be much more adept in the social media. We hope you enjoy this program and next week's, because Lisa Hendy, who comes to us from the St. Anthony of Padua Parish here in town, she is CatholicMom.com, has a program here on Channel 49 for several years, and is the one who in this diocese is helping us move forward in the area of the social media. And my friend, my brand new friend, Carson Weber, as I said, comes to us from Northern California. He has worked with the Diocese of Fresno, especially with the Office of Catholic Ed, and with our parish, St. Paul Catholic Newman Center, on our revised and much upgraded website. Thanks a lot for being here today. And I wonder if both of you could tell us, beginning with Lisa, how it was that you ever got involved personally, locally, and then nationally, and actually internationally in this area of social media. Lisa, tell us your own story briefly.
Jim, I should have looked it up before I came, but I remember sitting with you here several years back. Can you believe it or not, 13 years ago that CatholicMom.com was started in my dining room where it still exists. And I started the website to learn more about my own faith. At that time, I was struggling with being the head of my domestic church. This was before my husband, Greg, became Catholic, and raising two children and wanting to pass the faith along to them, but also wanting to learn more about it myself. So I started a website with a lot of dummies books, and 13 years later it's grown into a site where we now have 150 different writers sharing their content on the site daily. We have some bilingual content now at this point in Spanish as well.
Some programs from, what's that TV station?
Oh yes, KNXT.
Compartiendo is one of the programs that Lisa is propelling and getting people to watch.
And Nossa Faith, Nossa Vida.
Nossa Faith in Portuguese. So thank you for sharing so much with the diocese.
Oh, it's a pleasure. And, you know, just to watch the technology grow, to constantly be on the treadmill of trying to run alongside it and learn as much as I can, and to interact with people like Carson in the work that we do in the mission field of the new media is really exciting.
Carson, what's your story in a nutshell?
Sure. So back when I was in high school in the late 90s, my parents got me an Acer Aspire computer, and I decided to make a website at a pure HTML just for the fun of it when I was in high school. And for the past 17, 18 years, I've been dabbling with the internet. When I was at Texas A&M University in college, I decided to go ahead and study information technology. But God had different plans for me as He sent me. I discerned that I was going to study theology at the Franciscan University of Steubenville in Ohio. When I was there, I discerned a call to work within the church. And so I ended up working in a parish and did the parish website. And then I ended up moving to Sacramento to work for the bishop there, directing evangelization. And then at one point, Bishop Jaime Soto said, "Carson, we'd like for you to head up new media evangelization." Wow. And it was really his decision. He said, "I want you to focus on that." So for about 3 years, I helped the diocese work on getting a much better internet presence and using the internet to evangelize and catechize more effectively. And that was just such a great job. Had a lot of fun doing that.
So both of you have begun and it's been a long ride for both of you, a long march, and yet right now both are very, very present to thousands of people through what they do. And that is the upshot of our program today is to make us all aware of the power that is in our hands if we would understand it. So the first question to Lisa would probably be, for those that are needing to learn of it, that's me first. What would be social media anyways, Lisa? What are we talking about when we say the church and social media? What is it?
What is it? Well, a lot of people think of it as the thing that the kids in their life end up doing. But the truth of the matter, Jim, is that when I started back with the website 13 years ago, the content that we were preparing digitally went like this, one way. So we put up a website, people came and read it the way they would read a book or a newspaper. But somewhere along the line, our social media has transitioned to be this way, a dialogue between the different readers of a particular website or blog or social media site and the editors who are creating the content. So what you have is less flow of information out and more of a dialogue, and that's what these tools enable us to do with our faith, as well as to really share our faith in new and exciting ways and to be church all 7 days of the week rather than just showing up at church on Sunday.
Now, some of the slides we have, some of the JPEGs would be, the first three you wanted to show us would be Facebook. So what are we watching here on
Sure.
Facebook?
So most people have heard of Facebook. This is actually a website that was founded back in 2004, if you can believe it. They now boast over 1 billion monthly active users as of October of 2012. This is my particular Facebook profile on Facebook, but we also have the ability to create Facebook pages. And so I think we're going to show the St. Anthony of Padua Facebook page, which is a presence that mirrors our presence on our internet website. And this is a place for our community to come together. You see in this screenshot, we've got over 1,400 people that we've connected with, and they come daily to the Facebook page. We also want to look at the Facebook page for the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, which is another great example of a place where people go to get news and information, but also to be in dialogue with each other. As the church year progresses, we're praying, we're reading the readings together, we're having conversations about the very real issues in our life.
Now, there's like 44,000 that like this one.
Right. So
but
those
you
are...
had 1,000, so that's almost like 140. I mean, that's pretty good for your parish compared to the country.
And we actually at St. Anthony's actually try to encourage people to interact with the Facebook page by actually checking in when they are in the church parking lot before coming in. And what that does is that not only helps them to interact with our page, but it also shows all the people that they're connected with, hey, Lisa went to Mass at St. Anthony's tonight. It's a very great way of evangelizing and sharing our faith.
Now, the other media we wanted to talk about at this moment would be Twitter.
Right.
We have 2 slides of that. What do we have? What would be the importance of Twitter?
Anybody who's been watching CNN lately has probably seen a lot of references in the news to Twitter. This is my particular Twitter page. Twitter is a social network that enables us to put out short informational updates in 140 characters or less, and to share those with people who follow us. So people would decide, as maybe Carson would, to follow me on Twitter, but then it becomes more than just putting out of news. It actually becomes a conversation. What you see here is actually the grouping of a list that I've created for bishops around the country who are active tweeters.
How many are there?
Oh, close to 50 at this point that I know of on this particular list. And so I follow this list carefully every day to see what our bishops are up to. And many of our bishops are very active on Twitter, and we'll talk about our spiritual leader on Twitter as well in a few minutes.
Awesome. Then there's that slide that kind of like shows the hash mark and the @ sign.
Sure.
So what are these?
Sure.
And how do we use these?
Some people who come to Twitter will recognize the words, but they may not recognize these symbols. The first symbol, that number sign, actually means that something is grouped by a subject. So let's say that we wanted to tweet today about Ash Wednesday. All of us would put hashtag or the number sign Ash Wednesday, and then Twitter would actually group all those together. And what that creates is a conversation around a particular theme. Now, the second symbol that you see there, the ampersand or @ sign, means that I'm directing a conversation or a tweet at someone. And so this is how we enter into dialogue on Twitter. And so if I wanted to send a message to Carson, I'd say @CarsonWeber. He'd get a notification immediately of my tweet. And those are also being used to really build consensus with each other around issues, to respond to news that's happening in and around the world. So quite frequently for me, when I see news happening in the world, one of the first places I go to is Twitter. I do a search for whatever, for example, a hurricane, the name of a hurricane, to see what's happening on the ground, because people right there are giving source reports from that particular place.
Now, two other areas that we wanted to talk about now would be blogging and websites, and that would be up for Carson.
Right. So in the past, with the mainstream media, you'd have just a couple of newsrooms in the United States, creating information or disseminating it, which we would all then consume it through the television or through radio. And what websites and blogging has done is it's enabled the consumer to become a producer, to become an information conveyor. And so now anybody can create a blog and can perhaps center that blog around a particular subject. So one blog that I'm responsible for, that I help out with, is rciablog.com, which helps parish catechumenal processes who do RCIA learn more about how to do RCIA and share tips and tricks and various struggles maybe that they may be encountering. Lisa has catholicmom.com. It's mom, right? It's the singular, not the plural. And so through blogs, we're able to publish information in a way that others can consume, and that has become just a very powerful way of sharing your expertise. I know that my wife gets recipes often from blogs, and I even follow one of my old one of my friends from back when I lived in Texas. I followed their family blog, and that's how I know what's going on in their lives. Is I log on to Blogger and I'll see what they're posting.
You're a website developer. What would be the most important things you want to share about websites?
Sure. So websites, right now with websites, one of the things that in the past you would always have a website that maybe would be designed for a desktop computer. So you'd have somebody who would sit down at a monitor that has a particular screen resolution that may be 800 by 600 pixels, and they would be reading a website. Today, more and more people are accessing websites through iPads and the iPad Mini and their Android devices and their iPhones. So one of the things that the church needs to focus on, and we need to focus on whenever we create blogs, is make sure you're using a platform that is easily readable on an iPhone or an Android device. When you have somebody who's sitting in the line waiting for the doctor, and they're on their iPhone and they're going to your blog, is it easily accessible? Can they read it well? So that would just be one tip out of a multitude of tips and tricks to blog effectively, is make sure you're using a platform that's mobile friendly.
And the last thing before we take our break, Carson, share just a little bit about YouTube.
Sure. So YouTube is a way that you can publish media, and with blogs you can publish audio, you can publish photos, text. YouTube is specifically for video. So now I have my iPhone here in my hands, and I can take a 1080p HD video of anything, and I can publish it directly to YouTube just by hitting a couple of buttons. And so that enables for me to publish content. So YouTube can be used, especially by parishes, for a pastor to share maybe a Lenten message, or he could videotape his Sunday homily and could publish that. I use YouTube quite often to share family events with my family. I'll make it a private YouTube video that only they can see, so they can see how our children are growing. So YouTube, it can be used in such diverse ways.
What we're doing here at KNXT, and it might be nice to put up our little plug for this right now, and then we'll take our break. At knxt.tv, at our website, we have a channel set up now, and we have all the local programming in English, Spanish, Portuguese, and Hmong being made available for those that haven't seen it at its viewing time. We're making it totally available, and also many other things would be found at that website. So please join us there for both our website info and also our YouTube channel. We do have to take our break right now, so stay tuned, because in 1 minute, Lisa and Carson will be back and share the second part of our 2-program series on the church and social media.
For over 25 years, KNXT has been serving the people of the San Joaquin Valley with good family television that's just not available anywhere else. It's important for you, the viewer, to help support this valuable tool of ministry. KNXT needs to continue to grow and bring you important programming about your faith. But sometimes it's hard to stop and find the time. Make it easy. Go to knxt.tv and find out how easy it is to support your Catholic television station, KNXT TV.
Welcome to the second half of our first program on the church and social media. Lisa, Mark Twain said there's lies, there's damn lies, and then there's statistics. So statistics are pretty supposed to be awful, but there are some that may be useful. So share some of them with us about the use of the social media statistically.
Yeah, this is actually a really interesting topic, Jim. I think that it bears out the importance of social media, but it's also one of those things that at any point in time is evolving. So as we record today, we've got a set of statistics that are related to these topics, but that actually probably will shift quickly because that's what happens in these.
After this show, many people will be doing this more.
Exactly. Carson just finished telling us about YouTube, and one of the statistics that I found that's an accurate one is that 71% of all Americans watch YouTube videos regularly. 69% of them use social media sites like Facebook and Google+, and 15% of them are on Twitter. Now, that may not sound very high, but when you look at the demographic 18 to 29-year-olds who we're trying to reach with our church messages, that number grows up to 26% and continues to grow. Just some basic numbers to look at with respect to the sites that are popular and your users can see them now. Definitely Facebook is the forerunner. So if you're going to be investing your effort into some social media, look at Facebook, look at Twitter. Let's look at the next set of numbers now, though, and these actually come directly from the Center for Applied Research in the Apostolate, and these have to do with Catholics. We know that approximately 23% to 24% of Catholics attend Mass weekly. That's a sad number in my book. And when we look at the context of millennial Catholics with respect to important benchmarks in their life, but also their use of social media, your users can see there 85% have celebrated their first communion, 84% use YouTube. This is, again, millennials 18 to 29. Which
looks like if you made your Holy Communion, you're probably using YouTube.
Oh, yeah. And then what becomes even a little more distressing is that 82% have a Facebook profile, but only 69% have been confirmed. So you see with these numbers how important social media is in the lives of the young people who are a very active part of our church. And for those that we're trying to reach out to, it makes sense that we would use these tools that are such an integral part of their life to reach them.
Maybe Carson now could fill in again with this question about what is it about World Communications Day and the history of the Vatican's use of what we've been describing as this new media. Where is the Vatican on this, and what about this Communication Day?
Sure. So back in the 60s, when we had the Second Vatican Council, 16 documents came out of that council, and one of those was Inter Mirifica, which was the decree on communications by the Church. And Inter Mirifica called for this day to be celebrated once every year on an annual basis. And it became known as World Communications Day, where the Pope, the Holy Father, would come out with a message regarding social communications. And the Church, the Vatican, would use this word, social communications. Well, back then in the 60s, social communications meant the mass media. It meant radio or television or newspapers. Today, that term has evolved to mean social media, because now the producers of media are not just a select few, but it's anybody who has access to this technology. So recently, Pope Benedict XVI, and then before him, Blessed Pope John Paul II, in their messages, they've been speaking largely about the internet, about how to use the internet appropriately, and also bringing a soul to the internet, using the new media in a way that will respect our humanity, that will be of charity, and that will bring the truth to bear. That more will come to know the truth and not not false ideologies.
Now, Lisa, tell us something, as long as we're on the Vatican pitch here. The Vatican bloggers meeting sounds like a very small group of people, but you're going to say, no, there's a gazillion people are in the Vatican bloggers. Tell us about the Vatican bloggers.
This was something that was held back in May of 2011. It actually coincided with the beatification of our social media pioneer, Blessed John Paul II, held the day after his beatification in Rome. 150 bloggers from around the world, randomly selected.
We knew that you were there.
Yes, just a quick note about that I didn't actually ask my husband when I applied to go, because I thought the chances of me being selected were so small. So I had to wake him up that morning that I found out and say, honey, can I go to Rome in 2 weeks? But this was an event that was held at the Vatican, held jointly by the Pontifical Councils for Social Communications and Culture. Bloggers from 5 different language groups, presentations where we wore headsets and actually listened in our own native languages. The 150 of us, and it was very much not a go to the Vatican and listen to them speak at you. It was a dialogue. So the bloggers presented to the assembled people from the Vatican, and then the church hierarchy presented to us, and then there was a very great question and answer period where we had dialogue about the issues that were important to us. Really amazing
I'm
event.
almost amazed you keep saying dialogue. This is sounding awesome with the Vatican
really
having
was.
dialogue. This is awesome.
But
do you want to show us the pictures, right?
Sure, just a
I think
couple
we have
little
3 of them.
snapshots.
So introduce us to what might be going on in these pictures. This sounds
Sure.
exciting.
So let's see the first one. This is actually the building where we held the Vatican bloggers meeting. This is right off of the main drag of the Vatican. And you can see there the assembled church leaders who were speaking to us. And you see many of the people in that picture wearing headsets, which is the translation devices that we wore, because the presentations were in 5 different languages that day. And it just shows you now these are 2 friends of ours, social media friends, great blogger friends. Many of our friends like Carson will know them, and it's just the first time that many of us met in person, even though we're coworkers together in the mission field. And the next picture is my friend Steve Nelson, who you can see double fisting there with his media, with his camera and his iPhone. And actually, story about the live streaming that day. The event was live streamed worldwide from that cell phone that you see right there.
Isn't that...
Steve live streamed it so people all over the world could watch it from that.
And this is already almost 2 years ago.
Right.
So it's amazing that by the time we see this program, when it airs in March, it's already 22 months.
Yeah.
Imagine the progress made and the way that you have kept at this. 2 things that we want to talk about before we close. Lisa's going to tell us about the Pope on Twitter. So what do we got there?
Oh my goodness. He made his first papal tweet on December 12th. I think we've got a picture of his Twitter feed. His Twitter handle is @Pontifex. If you're not already following him, you need to be. He's already got 1.4 million English language followers as we record this, and 2.5 million followers in 8 different languages. And he's tweeting about twice a week and also responding to questions. So if you have a question for the Pope, you send it to Ask Pontifex on Twitter.
So it is turning out to be a 2-way street.
Oh, yes. He's actually answered a question from a friend of mine who wrote in and had her question answered. And she didn't even realize it until USA Today called her and said, did you know that the Pope answered your question? Awesome. So follow @Pontifex on Twitter, right, Carson?
That's right.
You follow him, right?
Carson, tell us about the YouTube channel. Then there's a little slide about that, too.
Right. So the YouTube channel is mostly Vatican news. What did the Pope do this week? What did he say in his Wednesday audience? Things along those lines. It's a means of following what's going on at the Vatican. So maybe of even more interest would be news.va. If you ever go in your web browser to just type in the word news.va, VA for Vatican, and that has the YouTube channel as well as tons of other information coming out from various dicasteries and different things that the Vatican is doing. The Vatican is actually, I remember a couple of years ago, Lisa and I were at the Catholic New Media Conference in Kansas City, and we had the head of Vatican Radio who was there. What was his name, Lisa?
Sean Michael Lovett.
Sean Michael Lovett, and he was fabulous. It was awesome. And one of the things that he mentioned that I won't forget is he pretty much joked about how slow things move in Rome, right?
Yeah,
it's just
like
so
a
slow.
glacier.
So when everybody was asking, well, when is the Pope going to get on Facebook, or when are you guys going to do this? He looked back at us and he said, we're doing a couple of things, and we now have a YouTube channel, but really it's up to you, the laity, for you to use new media to evangelize and catechize. Don't wait on us, but you get out there.
I like that idea, this idea of saying, where the clergy may be on this and the Pope tweets. Trust me, I'm not thinking this is going to turn the tide with it's going to be other people. So don't feel that you're going to wait for the Pope to answer your question like Lisa's friend lucked out. More likely, like Carson says, it's on us. I mean, it's on the world, not on the, you know what I'm thinking. Let's talk about some ways to reach you people. So how do we want to reach both of our great guests today? Lisa and Carson, we've got a slide here we might want to look at.
The easiest way for me is CatholicMom.com. One mom who's Catholic.
It's so easy.
You can find me through the website. I love making new friends on Facebook and Twitter, but come see me at CatholicMom.com.
And Carson.
That's right. And we talked about blogging a moment ago, and so my blog is at carsonw.org, or if you're on Twitter, my handle is just my full name, Carson Weber.
So we know how to reach these two. I'm going to just make a plug shamelessly about youtube.com/KNXT1 or KNXT.TV to reach our website and also our Facebook page and also our way of being able to reach you with our YouTube channel. Final thoughts? You've got 20 seconds, Lisa.
Thank you, Jim, for addressing this very important topic, and I hope that your listeners and viewers are inspired to become a part of this and to share in the joy that Carson and I feel with being in the social media.
They'll be left out of the future if we don't follow. Carson.
That's right. I would just say to use social media, but always be very careful about what you say. Whatever you say on the internet is for time and eternity will be recorded. And so be a Christian.
Be smart. And be here next week because we're going to pick up exactly where we left off with Lisa and Carson. Join us next week at KNXT.TV. See you then.